And
Okay.
I asked Jen to switch to audience camera when he speaks. So she's
Yeah. Virtual classroom.
Yeah.
Okay. Make sure you log into the virtual classroom. So when you appear in the classroom, not only you have to sign up, you have to sign your name for sign up sheets. Also make sure you log in the classroom. Okay, because we're gonna have a printout of what's actually in the virtual classroom at the end. Sure, the speaker join us. We should highlight that. We swap this. And make sure you log into your virtual classroom, okay, before we begin the class. I have a terrible allergy here today, so my voice is a little bit strange. Hopefully I can survive this whole night, but hopefully you can hear this clear, okay? We should start it right away. Are we okay?
Yeah.
Okay. When you log in the classroom, you have to turn on your camera. Otherwise, you can see an empty seat. No other student. The reason is, if you don't log in the classroom, you will not be able to, other student will not be able to see you. You will not be included in the interaction, okay? So make sure you log in the classroom. Okay, so we are now in week number 8. We are now actually beginning the second part of the class. The main differences in the second part, you will have to engage into the innovative team project with your teammates. Those team projects are outside your live classroom, so you're going to spend quite a lot of time to work with your teammates. By this time, you should already be assigned to a specific project team. Your communication, your teamwork should already begin. So this actually is the second week of our team project. Now, if you look at the whole the class module, we're now in module number 7. We have a total module of 10. So we are also close to the last part of our class. Now, as you remember at the beginning, we divide the whole life cycle into 3 parts: the early market, the mainstream market, then the late market. For each market, each stage of the market, we have 2 weeks of study. In the early market, the first week, we talk about how to initiate an early market, and you want to very quickly create an interim product. And the purpose for the interim product is so that you can use the lead user to test the assumption you have about the customer needs as well as the functional requirements, right? So that's the learning for the first part of the early market. Once you have established this interim product, once you have gathered a group of lead user, The second part of the early market focusing on how do you become a dominant design for the new market? Because without a dominant design, a new market will not be able to grow mature. It will not be able to expand into the mainstream market. And the way so there's a market chasing, and you have to become the dominant design to become the leader in the mainstream market. And the dominant design is based on the total market share. And the market share depends on the total market value, total customer value, which including how much actually functional utility you have, how many other network product you have, and other accessory you have. So this is called a total product value. And we have give you the examples of you can have one dominance in the market, and sometimes you can have a multiple dominance. So that will finish the early market. Then we move to the mainstream market. The first thing will happen in the mainstream market is because the mainstream market already have a dominant design be based on, so that the market will now start to focusing on competing in the performance because the demand and the function has already been determined. Now the performance competition will actually increase a lot because of the segmentation. So the first part of the mainstream market, we talk about market segmentation. The segmentation is because once the market becomes so big, once you have a common function requirement, company has to really do divide and conquer. So they have to really set the market into different segments. Some customer willing to pay more for high-end performance. Some customer willing to pay less for low-end performance. So you start to have low-end, middle-end, high-end market. And because of that, each company tends to compete within each segment. So the competition become very intense. So that's the first part of and then because the intense competition, and also because the nature of technology market is such that the increase of performance will always be faster than the increase of actual demand. So what you have is something called segment zero. Segment zero basically saying that if you want to really secure your market leadership, you have to protect yourself always from the back, because the lower market has a very low entry barrier. The future competition always become from the low end. So while you are moving toward high end, because high end actually give you higher profit margin, you always have to find a way to protect the low end. Okay, so that's the segment zero. Now segment zero is almost like in the midterm of the whole life cycle. So we talk about the change of strategy in segment zero. We also use the midlife crisis as an analogy. And because by that time, indeed, you have to swap your competitive focus, because after segment zero, which is the second part of the mainstream market, the whole competition has to shift to become price. There are multiple ways you can become more price competitive. You can cut down the cost. You can do a lot of process re-engineering. And in this course, we're going to talk about specifically two different approaches. One is called modularization, because modularization is a way to have a standard interface, which you can then produce the component in the standard unit. As a result, the production cost will be low, and that's the way you can increase your price competitiveness. The other way is called outsourcing, which will be the topic this week. Now, the interesting thing about modularization is once you start to do modularization, your performance started to, you have to spend some of the extra performance into the cost advantage. So you will start to have a slower development performance, but the price competition will increase very fast. And because modularization requires standard interface, the more modularization you do, the lower cost it comes, but then the product almost become based on similar technology. Therefore, the differences between product A and product B, product C become less and less. So this we call commoditization of technology. In other words, at the end, when the competition go all the way toward the end of the mainstream market, most of the product and technology become commodity. Commodity means that nothing but price matters. In other words, from this point on, the only thing you need to do is to find a way to cut down the price. This week, in the week number 8, we talk about the first part of the late market, which we're focusing on cutting down the price. There are many ways to cut down the price. As I said, the specific way we introduced this week is called global outsourcing. Now, the global outsourcing is a very interesting topic because almost, if you follow the news in the recent years, almost every day we have discussion about the trade war between different countries. We have a lot of geopolitical discussion about the global outsourcing. So when I speak global outsourcing, I will basically put in 2 parts. The first part, which is what you study this week, is basically the principle of global outsourcing. When I refer this as a principle, means that regardless what happened in geopolitical situation, these are the way, these are the reason, these are the mechanism to do global outsourcing. Now, certainly in practice, the principle will be impacted by geopolitical change, right? So after you study the principle of global outsourcing, the second part of the late market will talk about the current trend, the current development of global outsourcing, where you're going to see a lot of reasons why people start to do reverse global outsourcing. Rather than do offshoring, they start to do friendshoring. So there's a lot of new terms come out. This is all not because anything changed in principle. This is because the geopolitical change. Now, I want to separate these 2 parts so that you will study, you will understand the foundation of global outsourcing, which will not change. And you will also understand the current fluctuation of the global outsourcing trend because of the geopolitical influence. The geopolitical influence may go away or may become worse in the coming years, but the principle will never be changed, okay? So what you study this week is the basic principle of global outsourcing, which will all remain the same. And then the last, then we're going to have 2 extra modules. One, I'm going to talk about the internet revolution in terms of product innovation. Now here, I will not focus much on all the new internet startup, because you already know there's a lot of internet startup that become very successful. I will focusing on one important part is how internet can bring a new hope to the technology innovation, which will always end up in price competition, right? Remember this whole life cycle always end in a price competition. Everybody drive to the bottom. Then we have to really either leave the market or move to another market, right? The internet seems to provide a alternative to the price competition. Before internet, it seems like there's no way out. Everybody will just converge into price competition. But now we can see internet can provide additional way for us to continue innovate. Even when the product become more or less commodity, you can still continue the innovation. So we're gonna have a 1 module talk about the internet revolution. Then finally, there's 1 module we will talk about the Industrial 4.0. The Industrial 4.0 is a upcoming industry revolution. Many of the things people expect from Industrial 4.0 are the result of the current difficulty we're facing in terms of resource waste, in terms of its price-only competition. So it's not sustainable in the long term. That's why people start thinking about a different way of doing innovation. Mostly we talk about Industrial 4.0. So we're going to have a brief introduction. I will also give you example of what could be the product development scenario when you have cyber physical space all linked together. Some of these things already happening in a few industry sectors. It's not very popular, but you can see these things gradually happen. That could become a very mainstream activity in next 10, 20 years, okay? Now, after that, I will have we'll have 2 special lecture. Let me introduce you the special lecture. Here we go. Okay, so we're gonna have 2 special lecture in week 13, November 14. Now, in session A, we will have Professor Gunter Schulz from Aachen to give you a special lecture. Professor Xu and I, we know each other very well as a personal friend. As a matter of fact, he was my host when I took sabbatical in Aachen a couple of years ago. He's an expert in a lot of things. One of the things he has devoted a lot of effort is to create a very interesting small startup for electrical vehicle. So I was involved in all this new vehicle, and it was very interesting. He will actually tell you a little bit about history. Then recently he started focusing a lot of work in terms of disassembly. Because if you think about the way to put electrical vehicle, it's really just like a electronic assembly. It should be able to put together and put out very easily. So, and due to the focus of this semester's team project on the circular economy, so he will talk about reassembly process. He will also introduce some of the Industrial 4.0 development from the European point of view, because if you look at the history of the whole idea of Industrial 4.0, actually one of the conceptual frameworks started from Aachen. So Aachen in this area was very leading in the whole European community in Industrial 4.0. The live lecture for Professor Xu will be given in section A. So for yours in session B, you will have a chance to look at the lecture recording afterwards, okay? Now in section B, in this live section, we have Professor Dimitris Mortis from University Patras from Greece. I know him again long time ago. We both belongs to International Academy for Production Engineering, so we have a chance to have a lot of interaction. Professor Mortis will give you an overview of the research activity they have been doing in Patras in South Europe, mostly focusing on Industrial 4.0. And so you can tell this is really upcoming because a lot of research laboratory in the world are really focusing on the future. I think industry has already started this movement. So this will give you a lot of indication what will happen in the next 20 years. Again, the live lecture will be, So I just heard from him that previously the arrangement is for him to give a live lecture to session B. As a matter of fact, it will be almost like 4:00 in the morning in Greece, but he was able to give us a live lecture in early morning all the time. But this year he is on the fly travel from Greece to Rome at that time. So he is not able to deliver live, but he will make arrangement to have everything recorded. So we're going to have a live lecture in session B. Afterwards, we can have a discussion, and all the things will be recorded for session A students. Okay. So these two lectures, if you look at these two lectures, are at the very end and try to supplement what we have talked about in technology innovation and the Industrial 4.0. Okay. The important thing is I want you to hear professors from different regions so that you will have a global perspective on the new revolution, because this is still a upcoming revolution. Different part of the world will have a different approach. Say, for example, in United States, we hardly call Industrial 4.0. We call Internet of the Thing. Okay, so you go everywhere, people talk about IoT. German always call Industrial 4.0. European always call Industrial 4.0. In Asia, China always call manufacturing 2025. So every region, they have a little different way of calling it, but it's all toward the convergence of cyberspace and physical space, which create a lot of innovation opportunity. Okay, so these are the announcements for the two special lecture. If you pay attention to the class schedule, I have already updated schedule, so you can clearly see these two things. Now, for that week, since there's no pre-study material, okay? Because every time if I give a formal module, there's a pre-study material, a discussion. So for that week, we will not have a pre-study material. You will just listen to this special lecture. Now, I want to introduce a very special lecture today. Actually happened today in the morning section. I put in a wrong date. Do we have the speaker join us now?
Not yet. She's in the waiting room and we don't have a waiting.
What happened?
She has not joined the meeting yet.
No, but she said she did. Okay. Anyway, remember we have 20 Afghan volunteer. This is really a very unique opportunity of our course because we try to really reach out to different people in different world, try to bring their perspective into our innovation study. So we were very fortunate to get to know several foundations in Afghanistan. You know, a lot of things has changed a couple of years ago when Taliban took over. So we hear the news, but then next things come out, the news does not report these things at all. Say, for example, just a week ago, all the news is about the Ukraine war, right? Today, you don't even know what happened there. Why? Because there's another war coming. So you can tell the news is just really going through this as no tomorrow. But still, a lot of things happen in that area. I think we need to really understand so we have a broader context to do our work. Also, I don't know how many of you even know that last week or the week before, there was a huge major earthquake. Actually, that really happened in her own area. So she can give you a lot of real underground what's happening. I think this is a very important, very educational opportunity for us. So I invited her, Nahi Farad, to come over to join our class. Is she there? You sent her the...
Yeah, she has the invite, but she's saying she's in meeting room, although we don't have a meeting.
Okay, give 1 second to figure out. I just emailed her this morning. She must be there. We sent her wrongly. Okay, so we're going to wait for her to join us. What are we doing?
Just checking the meeting first, but I don't see her name in the people who have joined the meeting. Send her the link one more time.
Well, she's in the East Coast, so now should be evening. You got it?
8, yes.
Okay. Well, in the meantime, you can read her resume. She's the youngest woman get elected to the Afghan parliament. This is before Taliban took over. She comes from a very special family that invests a lot into Afghan girls' education. So before Taliban took over, their family has the schools in different provinces there, but now it's all gone. So she is now in the U.S. She's leading a very active foundation, try to provide support to Afghan girls to continue their education.
Yeah, she's here.
Oh, she's in?
Yeah.
Hello? Nahi, are you there?
Hi, Professor. How are you?
Oh, here we go. Nahi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. How are you?
We cannot hear your voice.
Oh. Can you hear me now?
No, we cannot hear your voice. 1 second. Okay, so she prepared about 15 minutes talk. I encourage everyone to listen and ask questions. Okay, we do have time for a lot of questions. This is the best time to hear people directly from a very interesting part of the world. Are you able to hear us?
I can hear you. Hi, Professor. How are you?
We cannot hear you now.
Let me leave and come back.
Wait a second. Wait 1 second. Okay. Okay, give us 1 second. I'm sorry. One more second, we try to figure out the technical problem. Okay?
Sure.
Sorry about that. Okay, so online student can hear, but student in the room cannot hear, so must be something wrong with the control setting here.
Okay.
Give us 1 second, okay? Sorry about that.
Okay.
But they're looking, okay. So is that, one more second, okay? They try to figure out what's wrong with the setting. How do we know it's fixed?
Listening to.
Are you listening online? Okay.
Then I guess somebody needs to talk.
Huh?
Yeah, I guess somebody needs to talk.
We need to test and set this in before it happens. This is not acceptable. We're wasting so much time, everyone. Make sure we test that next time.
So that I can do it.
You can hear it? Okay. Can you try that? But this is not. Nahi, are you able to hear us? No, you can have echo here. Can you say something we can hear you? See? No, we still cannot. Sorry.
We would like to mute this one.
Can you try muting?
Mute yourself.
We have a lot of echoes here. Do you echo? Maybe you should just turn it off. Otherwise,
Yeah, I just
we
did.
did it. Okay.
Yeah, but whenever I turn it on, I think that's what everyone else is hearing too. Okay, now that she's muted, there's no more echo.
1 second, hold on. We apologize. I don't know what else to say. It's supposed to work. Can we make sure we test this next time? This is not good.
You're not able to change the
Wasting.
Can you hear me now?
Nahi, I'm sorry that there's some technical problem here. We have called the technical support. They are on the way here. So give us 1 more second. We'll be able to hear you.
Sure.
Probably change it to something else for that. Yeah.
Let's go. So speak it out the microphone.
It's really extra. They're not working. The last ones.
Maybe now we can hear.
There we go.
Oh, can you say something?
Hi.
Oh,
How is it right now?
nice. So nice to hear you. So nice to hear you. Okay, I have already introduced you and give students some background of your work. So you can just go ahead, introduce what you want to say to the students, and then I encourage them to ask you any questions afterwards. Go ahead.
Sure, Professor Lu, thank you so much for having me. It's my absolute honor to be at your class. Like always, I always admire your care and the level of your determination and commitment to Afghan women and Afghan girls. I believe some of them also part of this class. This is a dream that came true because of the generosity of USC School of Engineering Viterbi and also the initial introduction through Professor Stefan Lu. So it's our absolute honor. Thank you so much for your commitment and support towards women of Afghanistan. So I am going to touch upon a few points regarding what is going on in the country. So Afghanistan fell under the Taliban for the second time. And the second time is the time that we are talking about. I don't want to go back to the history, but Taliban brought the history back, unfortunately. So in 1999 and 2000 and 2001, Taliban were ruling Afghanistan. 9/11 happened. They overthrew by United States and NATO allies. And Afghanistan experienced 2 decades of democratization and republic until 2021. So in August 2021, as you saw all over the news, Afghanistan fell under the Taliban once again. And now Afghanistan went centuries back. Now people of Afghanistan, especially women of Afghanistan, are living centuries back due to the Taliban's restrictions, oppression, very restrict way of interpretation of Islam, the way that they are dealing with their neighbors. They are harboring so many dangerous terrorist groups. They are in collaboration with a lot of authoritarian regimes in the region, in the neighborhood. And now as we are talking, unfortunately, Taliban rule through fear. Taliban see their future in a radicalized country. This is their agenda. Taliban use women as a bargaining chip for their demands from international community. And they are building a system that is according to the fundamentals of patriarchy and misogyny and male dominant system. There is no measure and system and tool, unfortunately, to hold the Taliban accountable these days. Even they are not accountable to United Nations as the only body that is presented in Afghanistan to help people of Afghanistan. The Taliban issued nearly more than 85 decrees, mostly against women, since they took over in August 2021. And this group that we call them a group of insurgents, because they have been insurgents. And they are in the United Nations consolidated list of sanctions. All the cabinet members of the Taliban are in that list, except 3. They have no expertise, no knowledge, or no agenda to tackle the multiple crises Afghanistan people face. Coming to the issue of crisis, a few days ago, if you saw over the news, there have been a very devastating, brutal earthquake in western part of Afghanistan, where I come from, I represented in Afghanistan parliament, and more than 3,000 have been dead. Unfortunately, thousands are missing. Many families are vanished. No one left behind to take these bodies out of dust, and the Taliban could not manage how to deal with this issue. All they had was the announcement that anything that want to be donated to the survivors of this earthquake has to come to the Taliban. They have to decide where to send and direct this donation, if there is any donation. And they didn't let women to go. They didn't let the women journalists. They didn't let women to go and help. A women helper to help take bodies out of the ground. Unfortunately, so this is the grim reality that underscores the urgent need to address how international community has to react towards the Taliban, how the civil and political and socio-economic and gender-based harms and operations that Taliban are acting these days are interconnected. How we have to look to the issue of Afghanistan. It's very complex. We cannot just talk about politics while women are not there. We cannot talk about civil rights while half of the society has no right. So after 6th grade, no girls is allowed to go to the school. Employment is prohibited, and these decrees are mostly against girls' education and women education, because Taliban believe that women are the agents of change. Women are those who can create a vibrant and equitable, a democratic country, and that's why this is how they can impede the country and the nation of Afghanistan from becoming a modern country, because it's easy to rule a country that is under such kind of situation, illiterate, not to be able to raise their voice, not to be able to demand their rights, not to be able to question the government, not to be able to hold the government accountable, right? Not to be able to have any media, not to be able to have any constitution. So it's easy to rule that kind of country, but if there is a demanding nation, Taliban see their future in a very vague and unclear situation. I wanted to touch upon and highlight the 5 points that how international partnership and collaboration can strengthen the efforts to combat the Taliban oppression that I call gender apartheid against women of Afghanistan, and to promote gender equality in Afghanistan. First of all, we have to acknowledge that international community has a responsibility towards Afghanistan. If you go whenever and wherever in the history that apartheid system emerged, in case of even South Africa, in case of Namibia, there had to be a failure. There had been a failure of the international community. And also for the case of Afghanistan. For the case of Iran, if you go to the history, when international community abandoned a nation, do not pay attention to a nation, let the country to go towards an extreme edge, apartheid regime emerge, and then the whole nation will suffer. We have insightful and thoughtful interlocutors and arguments to confirm this in Afghanistan history, and especially in the last two years that Taliban rule Afghanistan. Recognizing Taliban rule as a gender apartheid is not only crucial to Afghan people, it's also a critical approach for the credibility of the entire United Nations system. I think we have an international mechanism, and at the top we have United Nations system. They're all built to protect people, right? They're all built to protect women. They are there to and they get money, they get salary, they have an operation to protect the rights and dignity of the nations all over the world. And if the United Nations fails to defend women of Afghanistan and women's rights and women's dignity in Afghanistan, so this institution has no credibility to do so anywhere else. The third issue is that the Taliban's 2 years in power, and even more than that, have taught us that the ordinary human rights initiatives that we have on the ground through United Nations, while are important, they are insufficient to address gender apartheid in Afghanistan. The world needs to have a resolute and collective international action to end the war on women in Afghanistan. The fourth issue is that we have to think of a straightforward, a solid message to the Taliban. My approach and my I would say campaign core is that we have to recognize the Taliban as a gender apartheid regime, and this is a very bumpy, uphill, long road towards I would say eliminating gender apartheid in Afghanistan, but we have to start from somewhere. And we are starting these days writing down on papers, on policy papers, on white papers, in different media, that we have to conceptualize gender apartheid as a crime against humanity. We have a list of crime against humanity in the United Nations resolution. And it's important because if UN does not take a stand in this regard, so all member states won't do that because they think, oh, this is not important. We have other priorities. And of course, there are other priorities in the world. But Afghan people, Afghanistan is the only country in the whole planet Earth that half of the nation is denied from their basic rights. So this is a very devastating situation, has to be at the top of the priorities of the world. And all women are in the class, all the women who hear me, all the women all over the world who think they must act because they are women. They have to have a solidarity with women of Afghanistan. They have doubts about the United Nations, about international community, about international mechanisms, that these mechanisms cannot safeguard women's rights worldwide, not just in Afghanistan, because they failed in Afghanistan, so they are not going to promote equality and justice all over the world. The fifth issue is that we are witnessing a backsliding of democracy, not all over the world, not just in Afghanistan. It started from Afghanistan, we saw in Burma, we saw across Central America, we saw in Middle East, and we are witnessing what's going on in Middle East. It's imperative for all democracy stakeholders, all the people who believe in freedom, individual, government, institutions, students, journalists, former MP, anyone, they have to get united in defending their values. We must strongly believe in our shared mission of creating a more equitable, a more democratic world. So those countless women like me that had to leave, I had to leave my country, my daughter that had to leave my country, my mom who had to leave my country during the Soviet Union occupation, and her mom who also had been victimized by conflict. All this intergenerational conflict victimization has to be stopped. These women do not have to leave their country, do not have to leave their homeland to seek freedom. We have to make their home a better place. We have to get united in this regard. And the final point, and then I will stop. There might be questions and issues that might be an interest of the students, and I would be honored to answer. But the last, not the least, is that today's Afghanistan indicates a global reminder that what happened in Afghanistan can occur anywhere in the world. That a group of terrorists can overthrow a democratically elected government, can erase the hard-won gains and achievement of the whole society in matter of hours, like what happened in Afghanistan. And this highlights, even after 2 years, we saw incidents in South Sudan, we saw incident in Israel, we saw incidents in Middle East, that there has to be a global coalition in order to highlight how we can tackle this wave of extremism that will eliminate the freedom and modernism in different societies because they have agendas against Western world, and they are taking hostage of the nations to have their own benefit for their own interests. So this highlights this urgent and immediate action. I want to stop here, and I am all yours if there's any question.
Questions? Anyone want to give the questions? Yes, go ahead. Speak to Nahi directly.
First of all, thank you for being here with us. It was like a privilege to hear from you. I'm from Kuwait originally, so the Middle East. I've been seeing things changing around me, and people are fighting for women's rights. For example, in Kuwait, they were re-granted their right to vote for the parliament, and Saudi Arabia, neighboring country, we're seeing women that are starting to drive now. So do you view, or do you see things are going to change in the near future in Afghanistan, or?
Thank you so much for this wonderful question. I'm so glad we have students from Kuwait. I had the privilege of working with your MPs, members of your parliament, in different task force, especially an inclusive peace that we were pushing in Afghanistan parliament to have women as negotiators with the Taliban before the fall. So we had your parliamentarian helping us, pushing our agenda in international level. I want to thank you and also your parliamentarian in that regard. On the issue of the hope, what I'm thinking is that unfortunately, since there is no serious measure at this time to basically fight against the Taliban, and there is no alternative, to be honest. No one is there enough to say that we are here to fight. Even if they fight, there is an oppression that is inside of the country that they will be disappeared. But to be frank with you, when Afghanistan fell under the Taliban, I completely lost my hope that Afghanistan is finished. This nation is going to fall under this extremism. This is going to be a terrorism hub, and we have to forget about our homeland. But after like 1 week, there was an international day of Flag Day of Afghanistan, according to a constitution of the Republic. And I saw women, men, children, they took the flag of Republic and they went out to the streets, not only in Kabul, in different cities of Afghanistan, and showed the flag to the face of the Taliban and say that this is our value. And they just did not say that this is our value and we are here to fight for it. They were shouting that we are here to die for it. And the values that the flag of Republic it holds are the values of human beings, like access to basic rights, access to education, access to freedom of speech, access to freedom of press, access to freedom of assembly and getting together, and expression, and freedom of demonstration. All these values are the values of people of Afghanistan, that they are ready to fight for it. And in another angle, if you look to the issue of women's rights in the country, first of all, they are fighting for the whole spectrum of the rights of the society, not just women's rights. They are shouting all the rights of all citizens of Afghanistan, not just women's rights, when they are demonstrating. And they are resisting in 3 fronts. Women of Afghanistan resist in public front. They go to the street, they shout their demands, they get arrested, they get disappeared, they get raped, they get deported, but they continue to go and raise their demands publicly. They also have another front to fight, and that's domestic front. We are dealing with a country that has the highest level of domestic violence against women. We have a very conservative society, and this conservative society means many men many brothers, many husbands are not the supporters of their female counterpart. And women are fighting against that. And they continue to study, as the students in this class, they continue to get education, to get access to their rights through different channels. And this is the front that they also fight. The third front that Afghan women are fighting are the economic front. We are dealing with unprecedented poverty in Afghanistan. And because of the withdrawal, because of the international troop left Afghanistan, because of the women who do not have the ability to work because they cannot get out without a male chaperone. And if they get arrested, their husband will be punished according to the Taliban decrees. So this is also another front that women are fighting. I saw different incidents. One of them is that I saw a mother who sold her kidney to save her children. This is the level of sacrifice that Afghan women are dealing with. And it's sad. It's very sad to see these women are fighting in that level, and this authoritarian regime do not care. They just turn a blind eye. They don't care these women are suffering economically. They all have their own agendas, and that's unfortunate. That's why, because women are fighting back, because the people do not want to have this, I would say, this kind of regime, because they believe they don't deserve this kind of regime. They deserve a regime a government that they can question, that is accountable, that have been elected based on their votes. I believe there is a hope for a better tomorrow for Afghan people. All we think is that we have to empower women. We have to help societies. We have to work with grassroots. We have to help civil society organizations. We have to help NGOs so they get enough power to fight back. They get enough power to not to sell themselves to the ideology of the Taliban. And this is the only hope that we have for the future of that country. But I also wanted to add one more point, because this is a very comprehensive question and it needs a lot of time to answer. But if you go to the history, like we have Vietnam, right? After the communism take over in Vietnam, there was no hope. Everyone was thinking that this country is going to go to a very dark era and dark juncture of history. But see, these days, because of the new generation who come to power and they studied outside of the country and they go back with the ability to comprehend the power of modernism into governance and into the way of operation, the situation is very different these days. We have like a very, very different society than the time that communism took place. We cannot compare communism with the Taliban, but I'm giving myself some hope that we have to have this hope to continue this movement, to move this movement forward, to give hope to women inside of the country that we are here and we don't abandon you. Although your politicians betray you, we are here to continue to be in solidarity with you. And I also want to ask anyone who can be helpful, maybe in helping with an English class, maybe in helping in a connection, finding scholarships for women and girls in Afghanistan. Do it, because you will definitely take a step that moves women of Afghanistan towards a better future. I remember when I got in power in Afghanistan as a parliamentarian in 2010, I promised to myself that I have to keep the door open for girls and women of Afghanistan, because that's the only mission that I could tackle. And throughout my representation, I kept that door open. Keep the door open. Open the door and keep it open for women of Afghanistan, girls of Afghanistan, through education, through building schools, through equipment, through scholarships, things like that. But after the fall of the country, it's hard. It's very hard for me alone. I need you. I need each and every one of you. And Afghan women need you to keep that door open. And I promise you, the future generation of Afghanistan, who will definitely lead the future Afghanistan, will pass that door and will definitely be the agents of change for the future.
Thank you. Thank you. One more question. We have time for one short question. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Ritik, and I had one quick question for you. What are some of the channels or resources that we as students can use to contribute and help the women of Afghanistan or other people at Afghanistan as well to do our part and kind of improve the situation?
Depending on, thank you so much for your commitment in this regard. And I think as human being, it's not surprising. Everyone that see there is a situation like that in our planet, we have to feel responsible as citizens of the world. There are different resources available, even through Pathways program that we have. The Pathway program that IPODIA is also part of it, is that we provide job opportunities, and based on that job opportunities, trainings for girls and women in Afghanistan, and mostly on areas that women can work from home. So if there was any opportunity in education or in employment that you thought this might be helpful for women of Afghanistan, there is a call center, and they need a female worker who can speak English. We can introduce one of your classmates in that call center, I would say. It's just an example. But there are so many ways that we can help. Afghan women do not have also resources these days. I mean, access to basic logistic needs to get connected to internet, to have their devices, to have electricity, especially with the earthquake. We have a lot of affected areas that women cannot get connected. And we have to find them, we have to send them information. So if there was any opportunity in that regard that women could work from home and could study at their home, please let Professor Stefan Liu know about that, and we will be honored to have you on board.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. One last call. Okay, Nahi, thank you very much for your inspiring talk. We look forward to continue working with you and your foundation. I understand there's a 20 Afghan girls joining our class. As you told me, some of them actually are, because of the earthquake, they are sleeping on the street. So it's very hard, and we'll try our best to engage them in our class. Thank you very much. Good luck to you and your people. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Empower your people from Afghanistan. Afghan women will reclaim their freedom. We need your solidarity in this regard, and not by word, but by action. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Will do. Thank you. Okay. Done. Thank you. See you next time. Okay. Actually, Nahi tried to gather several Afghan girls who signed up for this semester. Unfortunately, she found out actually most of them now asleep on the street because of the earthquake. So you can imagine this kind of thing is just unthinkable for us. So she also mentioned the opportunity that we can provide to their people. Just let you know, the Viterbi School USC is now creating a joint, they call it a pathway program with their foundation. Because after Taliban took over, a lot of people set different foundations to help the people there. As a matter of fact, several foundations I know of, they are set up by American veterans because they they saw what happened in Afghanistan. When they come back to country, they feel they have obligation to continue help people there. So there are a couple of foundations set up by American veterans, and they actually now have a way to travel back there, try to help people. So a lot of activity in this area. USC now is providing their volunteering students to join our classes if they are interested in. We actually have a couple of girls in one of the new iPodia classes talk about the cultural astronomy by Dawn Seif. It's very interesting. You see people from different culture, they see the sky differently. So that's a very interesting interaction. We also, the Viterbi School also offer a group of girls some training courses. This is not a university course. This is a training courses about website programming. Because I think one of the challenge we have is the woman or girl cannot leave home to work. So anything they can work to earn living has to be at home. So that's why Viterbi, I think through the information technology program, we're providing some training courses for their students to learn how to do web programming. Okay, if there's any others. In last semester, we actually have a pretty active interaction with them. This is right before Taliban announced the woman cannot go to school. So we actually have a lot of interaction with them. The student have a student group working with the young people, try to help them. Something very basic. You cannot imagine something very basic to them is just very hard to get to. Okay. So I encourage you to come with the idea. As a matter of fact, we talk about at the beginning of the class, you can innovate to serve the few in the top. You can actually also innovate to serve the many at the bottom. The bottom of pyramids, this is what they call. The bottom of pyramids actually need a lot of innovation, which does not need a rocket science. It just needs you to pay attention to understand people's situation. Okay? Other questions? Okay, let's quickly go through your team project. By now, you should already have the chat room for your team project. It is very important you start engage, talking to each other. I suggest you try to start a communication. Each team must elect a team coordinator. Because we have 8 to 9 students, it's a pretty large team. We like to have a one coordinator, and you should submit the name of your team coordinator to the TA as soon as possible. Actually, here is before this week. Okay. The next one is try to reach out to each team. We assign one Afghan girl. You may not be able to hear from them in the short time, but try to reach out to them to see whether you can reach the established connection. The next thing is when you have teamwork, we prefer you to do all the work as much as you can in the chat room, because then we have all the records there. If you think those information you send out or you want to discuss relates only to your team, you can then just do it in your team chat room. Every team has a chat room, which only your member can see. However, there's some information, say, for example, if you find a very interesting reference article, you think the whole class can benefit, feel free to communicate those messages in the channel. We have a team project channel. When you put this into team project channel, then everyone in the class should be able to see that, okay? So just make sure you don't share your own team information in the channel. You want to work as much as you can in the chat room, okay? Each team is being assigned a faculty per different section. So if you look at your team list, you will always see one faculty. In this session, you will see faculty from USC, from NTU, PKU, and from Shanghai. So it depends on your team. You have different faculty. Now, since the faculty also become part of your team there, they will sometimes have a chance to drop in to see who has been doing what. If you have any question there, the faculty should be your first stop to reach out. You can certainly reach out to us. We'll be happy to help you with the team project. The important thing is you only have 7 weeks. So it is a very short time. You wanted to start to communicate. as much as you can. Okay, if you have any question regarding the team project, this is actually a very important part of the second half of the semester. This is how you really start to see whether you can apply some of the principle to the practice. Okay, so now let me start tonight's quick review, quick overview of the module. This is the module 7. Now in this module, what you have seen is you have already reached the point where you start to compete in the price. Remember last time we talked about one way to compete the price is to do modularization, right? Modularization allows you to have standard interface. However, modularization also allows you to take some of the parts, the production of parts to other places. This is called outsourcing, right? Because if you want to send a job to someone else to do it, you have to have enough specification, right? Once you have all the technical specification, you can basically subcontract the job to some other unit, other places. So this is one way to retain the price competitiveness for the late market, which is called global outsourcing. The way you do global outsourcing, the way you do outsourcing a different kind. There's sometimes we call offshoring, sometimes we call outsourcing, so they're different. So we will. So you should already learn what is outsourcing. Outsourcing basically is to sending job to outside. Okay. Now there's two different outsourcing. One is called global outsourcing. That is, you send a job to a unit which is foreign units. It's not a domestic unit. So that's obvious. Another related concept is called offshoring. Offshoring means you send a job outside your own unit here, but it's still within your own organization. Say, for example, if you're sending a job to a subsidiary you have in Europe, that's called offshoring. So offshoring is a geographical location. That is, you move the production to different geographical location. It does not go outside the organization. But outsourcing is an organizational concept. In other words, you are sending the activity outside the organization. Therefore, the legal implication of outsourcing and offshoring are quite different. Okay. For example, if you do offshoring, you basically your job is moved to the subsidiary, so you still have a liability, right? And one of the reasons people do outsourcing is because they can immune from the liability, right? So because you already subcontract to other company, so it's a subcontractor that's liable to what happened. So there's a lot of different pros and cons there. Now, typically, company will start outsourcing first because trying to establish a overseas subsidiary, it takes a lot of effort. Okay. Also, you're going to expose a very different kind of risk. So it used to be more convenient or easier to do outsourcing to begin with. And the more and more people start to outsourcing, the more they figure out how to operate in different countries. Some company will start to expand it into offshoring. However, in recent years, as we're going to talk about in the next week, and because the geopolitical situation, and those two things are all coming back. So we call inshoring, that is bringing the things back to the domestic region, and also there's a lot of anti-outsourcing activity going on. However, outsourcing is not a single business contract. It's really creating a very large, sometimes very complex supply chain, right? So trying to reverse this outsourcing is not very simple. It's not as easy as we just hear of the contract, okay? Because then the whole supply chain get disturbed, okay? So it's not very easy. When we talk about the reversal trend, I can give you some example what a difficulty we're facing. And that's why you're going to see during this reversal process, you're going to see the price will increase. You're going to see the product will be delayed. So there's a lot of difficulty in this area. Okay. In this, I would talk about, in this module, you have to realize that outsourcing is a strategic partnership between two parties. Those are different organizations, two parties. And one party we call brand company. Brand company often will refer to the technology leader. Those are the company that went through the mainstream market, leading the market. In other words, their brand is well recognized in the market. And those companies often they invest a lot in the early stage, so their technology performance are the best. Unfortunately, their cost structure often are higher. So at this point, they have to find a way to reduce their cost, overall cost. And the way they do that is to forming the strategic partnership with something called OEM. This is called Original Equipment Manufacturer. And those are the company that takes care only the production part, the very labor intensive, resource intensive productivity. Because if you look at that, the OEM company often has to have a much lower cost structure than the brand company for the outsourcing to even make sense, right? Otherwise, you will not be able to really gain the cost advantage, okay? So once you have the brand company, OEM company, and you try to form the business agreement. The business agreement is different from joint venture, very different. It's basically a job contract and subcontract. So as a result of that, you can see there are positive consequences and negative consequences. So you need to understand the positive consequence certainly is the motivation why people want to join together. So their motivation for you to become partner. So you need to understand what's the motivation from brand company. Why do they do that? What's the motivation for the OEM company? Why do they want to be a subcontractor? And then as you start to do this at the very beginning, everything makes sense. So people keep doing it. As everything in the world, if you overdo it, it becomes bad, right? If it's a good thing, you overdo it, become bad. So I think what you see is over the past several decades, starting from like, I would say late 90s, when the globalization, when the global outsourcing start become very popular, and you see the trend just move too fast. As a result, people ignore some very important part of this global partnership. As a result, you create a lot of negative consequence. Now, the negative consequence actually is the reason today we have this kind of geopolitical anti-globalization movement. Because once you have this negative consequence, even though it's unintended, it's easy for politicians to grab those negative consequences and start to rouse you the different movement. And so a lot of times the real negative consequences get ignored because they become political. So people start to really talk about global outsourcing in the context of political, in political context. I think that's really something we need to be very careful, that we need to take those political things aside and look at the pure global outsourcing model, the pros and cons. Then you will be able to really identify what's the real reason for this negative consequence, and you will be able to address this negative consequence. For example, later on, when we talk about this, I will point out that the real problem with the global outsourcing is when we try to generate, create global outsourcing, try to create a profit for both parties, we ignore that besides creating profit, there's another major problem, that is the distribution of the profit. We did not really focus much in the first phase of globalization, which happened over the past several decades. We did not really focus much on the distribution issue. So as a result, yes, global outsourcing make a lot of people rich, but also a lot of people suffer. And the way they participate in global outsourcing are not equal. So that create a very different kind of problem in economics area, in political area. So you need to really understand what's the fundamental reason so that when you start global outsourcing next time, after all this geopolitical movement is over, you will then be able to do it the right way. Okay, so we're going to talk about the positive thing and the negative thing. Okay, when you do global outsourcing, it is already in the labor market, okay? So when you have that labor market, basically the demand, it's already very clear. In other words, there's no, you will not do global outsourcing if you're not even sure about the demand. The function is already being standardized, right? Because you already passed the the market chases. The performance often are too good already. In other words, you will not do global outsourcing when you still need to do a lot of R&D to improve performance. You probably will not do that, okay? Because at this moment, the more you invest in performance, the more return you have. And you're not going to focus much on the reducing the costs. And then the modularization have already started because you have started to do cost reduction, right? And then eventually the technology become commodity. So what happened is modularization always happen when you come to the late market, okay? So it is in the late market. Now, some people will ask and say, hey, those seems to be, for example, Apple started to do outsourcing long time ago, right? Does it mean Apple already have the iPhone is already in late market? Seems to be different, right? iPhone is still pretty much in the mainstream market, and yet they started to do outsourcing long time ago. So it seems that this is not necessarily always in the late market. Now, here you have to be a careful to pay attention. When you visit for example, I had a chance to visit Foxconn. You know, Foxconn is the largest assembler producer for iPhone, right? So they are typical OEM, they're typical original equipment manufacturer. If you go to the Foxconn production line for Apple, you will see very interesting thing. And there are certain sections of the production line, they completely block out. And no Foxconn employee can even enter. It's all Apple stuff. So in a way, it is not a typical complete outsourcing model. Because in the ideal complete outsourcing model, you will give the spec of everything to another party. Another party will simply follow what you do. Everything is just being, in a way, everything's open between you and the receiver, right? But in Apple's outsourcing there, they really block a lot of areas which they don't want to share, okay? And if you want to do OEM, you have to accept all these conditions, okay? So I'm telling you that the example, like Apple is not a typical kind of complete outsourcing model. In a complete outsourcing model, you basically will sign the contract based on a piece of specification. Then it's up to the other party how to implement that. And you will simply check the deliverable, make sure they deliver what you want, the quality we want, and then you pay them. That's it. You will not involve too much into the way they make it. But in Apple's case, you will see Apple was directly involved in how they assemble, how they make it, because they don't want everything to be known for other people. So this is a slightly different model, okay? So in the discussion of global outsourcing, often we have two terms. One is called brand company. Brand company is the leading company, okay? Then we have OEM company. OEM company is a follower, okay? And often talk about outsourcing, you need to have a three competitor here. So this is the leader, the competitor, and the follower, okay? And the global outsourcing typically happen between A and C, not between A and B, okay? And the reason is, if you look at a segment zero phenomena, if nobody do anything, B will very quickly take over A. Therefore, B have a much less incentive to even join partnership, right? Because if B can wait a little bit longer, B will be the leader. So it is very hard for A to convince B to become partner. Instead, A have much better chance to convince C. Why? Because C is still very far behind, and by joining with A, and suddenly it become a player in the global market. So C will have much more incentive than the B, okay? And later on, you will see once A and C start to become one family, they will have very good competitiveness, both in terms of branding from A, as well as cost from C, right? So they will become the market flavor. And then B will be in trouble. B will then instead look for D. So very quickly, this competition become A plus C against B plus D, right? And then the things will keep continue. So my point is, once you start to have outsourcing model, very quickly become a very complex network. It's not a simple one piece of paper between two companies, because the pressure the pressure of keep lowering the price, lowering the cost is always there. Okay, so that's why once the global outsourcing start, it become alliance. Okay, you have a lot of alliance in different regions, and therefore simply breaking down the contract between A and C is not a solution, because then there will be a lot of other company already involved in this. This is particularly true for a lot of very mature product. Okay, so I have already explained to you okay, so you already know this, and already know why A and C join together. Okay, so first look at the reason. Why do they work on outsourcing? Actually, there's only one reason: cost. That's the reason. Okay, they want to do outsourcing with you. It's not because they like you or because they want to really do something else. They just want to help themselves to be better cost. Okay, that's the reason. However, if you break down the detail, you'll find out each party has a different reason. Okay, so suppose you're a brand company. Brand company is lower cost, right? So what you want to do is you want to look at different kind of cost structure. Typically, a major concern for brand company is labor cost. Therefore, you will see a lot of these outsourcing jobs are labor-intensive jobs. They tend to be at the lower end manufacturing activity, assembly, for example, final finishing, even packaging. All these are very labor-intensive jobs. Now, why this is a problem? Because mostly the brand company in the developed region, their labor costs are much higher. And certainly, this is because the society has a much higher living standard, for sure. One of the reasons, particularly in the US, is because the union, okay? So you can tell union become a very major factor of global outsourcing. Because union try to bargain for a better salary. The company has no other way to not agree, because union will have a collective action. But the more company agree, the more the less competitive they become on the market. So at a certain point, the company decided, hey, I'm not going to negotiate with union. Instead, I'm moving the factory out. I'm moving the factory to other country. I can get a better deal. I can remain competitive. Then what happened? The union start to really have a problem. So one thing, you know, the union movement is not new. I mean, since the Second Industrial Revolution, start from steel plant, okay? Carnegie steel plant is the first they start to have a union. So union is not new. However, the global outsourcing trend started in 80s, 90s, create a very interesting dimension of union. Because then the fight is not just domestic. It become a global event. So if you want to really, if union want to push very hard, I will move to other country. And then certainly union will start to really think think twice. This is really one of the root cause of the problem, because I think at the early days, the union and the company, when they negotiate, they only negotiate a salary or a particular retirement plan. They did not really negotiate much more important things. Say, for example, about the reinvestment of the worker, the education. So, for example, when a company moved the job from U.S. to other country, union will lose the job, right? The union will often say, okay, then you have to give me a retirement, whatever compensation, right? Okay, company will write a check, give them compensation, everybody take money, go home, everything's fine. This is really bad, because then these people who get a check and go back home will never have a chance to return to job market, even later on when the job come back. They're out of the job market, right? So think about another way, say, for example, if the company, when they move the manufacturing job to other country, they, instead of writing a big check to the union, they write a big check to, for example, pay for all these workers 4 years education, just for example, okay? So those people will still have a way to improve themselves, even though they are out of the job for the time being, right? So when the housing return, when the job return, those people will become more the knowledge worker. Those people will have better training and to pick up different kind of work, right? That will be a better model, but we never done that. We basically try to go easy way, write your check, you go home, do whatever you want to do, okay? So as a result, you can tell today, when we talk about reverse global outsourcing, one of the very difficult situation is we don't have worker anymore because those people, they stay at home for a while. Later, I'm going to tell you that when they take a big check, stay at home, their life is still pretty good because even though their income reduced, but they can buy a very cheap product. They can still go to Walmart to buy big TV. So this kind of vicious cycle makes people now wanting to work, okay? Because if I don't have a job, I get a check, I can still live pretty well, so why would I work, right? So there's a lot of bad things start to happen, and people at that moment, when they rush to the global outsourcing at the beginning, they didn't think through these things. They just wanted to cut down the cost. They want to do the simple way, so they move out, and then they spend money to take care of all this worker without helping them or re-educating them, okay? So labor is a major problem. Now, this thing now is very different. This is one of the reasons now a lot of companies start trying to move the outsourcing to different places. Not necessarily move back to the home country because the home country is still very expensive, but move to the second tier, okay, to the third tier, right? For example, you have outsourcing from North America to Asia. Then you have Asia, move to South Asia, to eventually to Africa. So this whole become a whole supply chain, okay? So labor cost is one thing. Now, one thing is very interesting is once you move the factory to low-cost area, sooner or later, the living standard of low-cost area will improve, right? That's the whole effect of industrialization, right? As a result, their living standard will also become high. Therefore, at a certain point, they have no choice but do the same thing as you did. They have to move to other places. You got it? So this kind of one baton pass to the other one, and the other one pass the baton to the other one. It's just happening all the time. Why? Because living standard will increase, right? I have one personal friend. When I heard his story, I was really amazed. He has been very successful in global outsourcing. When the Western company want to go to China, he invests money to create a factory in south part of China, in the coastal area. So he become very well off in outsourcing. Then what happened is, once the cost pressure become more and more, he also have to find someone else to outsource, right? Otherwise, he will not be able to sustain the cost competition, right? So what happened is he will then move his own outsourcing plan to the inner part of China. You know, the Chinese economy development is almost like an onion layer, one layer after the other. So he will move his plan to the next layer and create a factory there and continue outsourcing. Then you know what? He will then sell the land he has for the first layer to make a lot of money in real estate. So at the end, he become very rich, not because he has a factory, it's because he has land. You understand how these things work? So when I heard how he makes money, I was really surprised. I thought he make money hard way in the factory. He said, no, I never make any money in factory. I make money by selling the land. Okay, so what happened next is now he's moving to the next one. Then he do the same thing, he sell the lands. Okay, so you can tell that originally this is a good idea. It make a lot of sense, but then it start to create a lot of secondary effect, and people start to really do different things. So imagine you become worthy by land and nobody really benefit, right? So there's a lot of problems start to surface because the people want to do these things too quickly. Facility is a very important reason because typically when you want to make a production, you have to invest in the factory. So that costs a lot of money. Often the facility has to has to meet a local requirement. For example, your facility has to meet certain environmental requirement, right? Certain safety requirement. In the developing region, this requirement higher. Therefore, facility cost and standard will be higher. Therefore, you cannot afford it. You have to move to other places where facility requirements are less, right? They probably don't have as tight as the safety standard, so the facility will be cheaper, right? Now, the last thing which many people ignore is one of the reasons outsourcing occurred from brand company is the energy cost, okay? The energy cost has always been a major driver in production because it takes energy to produce things, right? Particularly in the developing region, not only the energy cost in developing region is high, a lot of times it's because of regulation, because the environmental regulation, right? Because we know clean energy will cost more, and the developing society will require clean energy. The cost is very high. As a result, they will move the production to the less developed area. Why? Because there the regulation is almost none, and they can just burn the coal. They can just do whatever they want to do, and that was the big reason. Okay, and you will see those good reasons later on all becomes negative. Okay, because there are consequences of this. Okay, so these are the cost reason. Now, suppose you're OEM, why would you want to take this? Okay, and obviously you want to take this because you suddenly can have a huge job market. Okay, every year if you look at how Foxconn recruited people, there's a long line of people who just submit application. Okay, so this is a huge market. Okay, for recruitment. Now, often this is something a lot of local government prefer. Why? Because the job create a job opportunity, will improve local economy, improve tax revenue. So all the good things. Therefore, a lot of time the local government or the local official for the OEM side will actually provide incentive for the brand company to come in. For example, they give you tax-free, okay? So the first couple of years, you don't pay tax. They give you free land, okay? So since they have a lot of farmland anyway, they give you free land, you build a factory. They give you a lot of incentive, okay? So this is one reason that the OEM country want to do that. Now, this is why in the 90s or late 80s, 90s, when OEM started, it happened most quickly in countries where they are at the edge of transforming from agricultural economy to industrial economy. Okay, because in agricultural economy, you have a lot of people, farmer living the rural area. Their income is low, their productivity is low. How do you try to improve to quickly become industrial society? You want to move them into factory, right? So you want to move the farmer from the field into the factory, become factory worker. And if you just do it by yourself, it's a very long process. That process is very long. However, if there's a foreign company come to your town, want to build a huge factory, want to hire your farmer to become factory worker, that's great. And therefore, it becomes a sort of like a shortcut for you to have employment to get into industrial economy. Okay, you can have a quick acquisition of know-how, and this know-how is mostly in production. Okay, because the OEM company have to make sure you can produce the things according to their requirement, right? So if you don't know how to do it, they will have to teach you, make sure you know how to do that. And this is particularly true in a lot of mass production, because mass production know-how are very hard. So so they can get a lot of tech transfer know-how. Now, the know-how, so you don't have to have your own R&D. You can just get a know-how from your OEM, from your brand company. And then as you start to produce things, you become very good, not just in production, you become very good in design. So your know-how start to accumulate by yourself. And then eventually now you can also go back to the brand company, say, hey, now I know how to do design. How about let me do design? So it become, from OEM, become ODM, they call original design manufacturer, right? So this know-how, once it started rolling, it can go very far. And then you can have quick access to global market, right? In the early days, everybody know global market is the future. However, unless you have a good technology, very hard for you to enter the global market if you're just a farming country. Okay, very hard. So once you become industrialized quickly, you can become a player in the global market. So these are the reason for OEM to do that. Okay. Now, this is just an agreement, a contract, right? So the contract has to be defined very clearly. And this is not your own subsidiary. You can do hire, fire by yourself. So you have full control of what they do, right? So everything has to be spelled out on paper. Everything has to be agreed upon in the legal dimension. So as a result, the legal framework become a very important part of OEM. It will tell you what you cannot do. Not only the legal condition has to be clear, the brand company also have to make sure the local government of the OEM region has the ability to carry out the legal condition. Because a lot of time, the government in the OEM area, they are not as robust as you wish. Even you have a legal document, they cannot really carry too much, right? For example, intellectual property right, all different things. So this is a rather complicated thing. That's why it involves a lot of negotiation. And this is also why very quickly you created a new industry which help company do global outsourcing. Because those companies are very specialized in creating this condition, the legal framework there. They also know the player on both sides. So very quickly you have a industry for global outsourcing industry. Okay, good examples in India. Okay, India, if you go to city like Bangalore, it's a huge industrial IT industry, right? They also have a huge company that actually do nothing but helping OEM contract. Okay, they can do that by quickly put parties together. So the legal condition certainly has to be confidential. That is, if I give you exactly the specification of my product, you shall not share with anybody else. So this is number one, very important. The number two is exclusiveness. This is a very tricky one. That is, if you give me such job, I agree to take this job. I then have to promise you I will not take the same job from him. Because otherwise, because this is for competitiveness reason, right? So if I work for you on this particular job, I will only work for you. I cannot work for him. I have to agree on that. Otherwise, I will also work for him, like you two start to really have a competition, right? So it has to be, so the agreement has to be exclusiveness. The next one is non-competitiveness. That is, if I give you this job to do, you have to promise me that you are not going to use what you learn from me to compete with me, right? Because I'm going to give you a lot of know-how, right? So you cannot simply just cut out me and then try to produce the things there and then sell back to my market. You cannot do that. So this is non-competitiveness. Got it? And then the last one relates to liability. That is, if something happens in your factory, it's your business, okay? Don't come to me. Okay. Now, this is a little bit tricky. For example, Apple, for example, a lot of time they have to make sure their OEM factory have all this safety standard there. It's not because of legal reason, because legally they are not liable, but it's really for the reputation, whatever. So they want to make sure they are green, they are lean, all different things. But legally they are not liable. Okay. So you will see the confidentiality, exclusiveness, non-competitiveness, and liability exclusion. Those are the very typical things. Now, certainly there are other conditions you can add on that, but every OEM contract will have these things. The reason is for the protection, for protection, okay? Now, this outsourcing alliance, I already told you A and C and B and D, so you can see this is a very interesting one. Suppose you have different market segments, right? Okay. So you have A and B, and then A get married to C, right? And B become threatened. B will marry to D, right? So then you end up AC is one group, BD is one group, right? So this is called first level alliance, first layer. But as I said, the price pressure will keep coming. So sooner or later, this is not sufficient. So what you do is you then look for AC will look for E. You got it? And BD will look for F. No, I'm just giving you a conceptual structure. Okay, certainly in the real business world, this may be more complicated. Okay, this becomes the second layer. See that? And then this will continue. Okay, so you see A, C, E, G become one group, competing with BD, F, G, F, H. This becomes the third layer. So what happened is this keep pushing toward the end, keep pushing toward the late market, right? And eventually, you know what happened? Eventually, it's keep going. You say, well, where does it end? Where does it end? Where does it end? It ends at a point where there's no market incentive, no profit incentive to enter, right? Because at a certain point, you cannot squeeze any further profit. There's just no profit incentive to enter. That's where it's end. Right? So it's a very interesting, you have this alliance form, and therefore, yeah.
Which of these letters is brand and which is OEM?
I'm sorry?
Which of these letters is representing the brand and which is the OEM?
I cannot understand your question. Say it again.
Which of these letters represents the brand and
The brand?
the
Okay.
OEM?
Yeah, actually OEM doesn't have brand. OEM will always use brand company's brand.
So none of these
No,
letters.
well, for example, AD is a pair, right? A will contribute the brand and the design. D will contribute the quality and the delivery and the production. So here, when you are a customer, you are buying the A brand. C is unknown to you, right? Same thing here, B and D, when you are a customer here, you're buying a B brand. Therefore, at this level, A brand is competing with B brand. The A competing with B brand, C and D, they are behind. They are not known to the customer. Okay? As a matter of fact, the product made by this OEM, often they're called white label product. White label product. White label product means there's a product, everything works exactly the product, but there's no label, there's no brand. You got it? Okay? But however, because this non-competitive agreement, you as a C, for example, you cannot simply put your own label on the white label brand. You cannot do that because then A will sue you. You got it? Because the brand. So basically, A contribute the brand and market, C contribute the cost and production, and then the whole thing comes in. So it's always A, B competing brand, okay? Then eventually you will see. It's always two things for customer to choose. Yeah.
So if you're like a latecomer, you're always going to be turned into an OEM, and you're never going to be the brand. Like there's usually the two leading brands.
In theory, it's like that. However, there are ways for OEM to become brand company under the condition in the previous page. For example, I have another friend who is a very successful OEM. He actually owns about 6 publicly traded companies, very wealthy one. And he was the first OEM producer for Dell monitor. So he makes all the Dell monitor, big one, small one, right? As a result, he cannot really have his own, even though he is very resourceful, he has a lot of money, he cannot suddenly introduce a new monitor with his own brand, even though he knows how to make a monitor. He knows very well how to make it cheap, how to make high quality, because the agreement. So you know what happened? He started to create a new business to make the phone monitor for Motorola. That he can do. But it's a different kind of product. You got it? So to Dell, that agreement with Motorola did not violate their agreement because it's in completely different market. He cannot, having this Dell agreement, he cannot go to another company, Lenovo, to make the monitor. He cannot do that. But he can have a OEM. He can actually even have his own brand if Motorola allowed him to do that. Okay. Actually, in Motorola's case, he still doesn't have a brand. So he made a third move. What? He started creating a new company with a brand to make the special display for the airline seats. Again, making monitor, right? So he knows very well. But that one, he has his own brand. Got it? So he will have his, he has, I think it's called Lite-On, he has his own brand, but all these things come from his original agreement with Dell. So Dell helped him to set up the plan, learn how to make monitors there, but he have to evolve himself. And only the third step, he can become a brand company, but in a completely different market. It's not even the same market. Got it? Okay, now this is also very interesting. That is, OEM company tends to become very big. You say, okay, for sure, because they need to have a volume, right? So they are big. It's not really that reason. The real reason is the cost-cutting pressure, okay? So for example, in this scenario, he agreed with Dell at the beginning of the year, say, okay, we're gonna make 1 million monitor, each will cost certain money, right? So he worked very hard, at the end of the year, he delivered. Then Dell will call him, say, hey, we're happy with your first year work. However, the market competition is very high. Next year, we like to cut 10%. You don't have to say yes or no. You call me tomorrow, okay? So if you are this person, what do? 10% cost cut. You say no. Well, if you say no, Dell will go to another company, right? If you say yes, how are you going to say yes? Where did that 10% come from? Now, this is something very interesting, which I think generate a problem today. Now, typically what he does is, now he said, okay, if I make this 10% cut, I will have job from Dell, I will have more job from Dell, right? The question is, how do I get that 10%, right? So he will do it, what he will do is he will use his equipment and land, go to the bank as collateral to borrow the money. Bank will be very happy to lend him money, right? Because he has a collateral, right? He has real factory, right? So bank will give him the money. Now, you know what? He then uses money to expand the factory. As a result, he can meet that 10% objective. Bank is happy, he's happy, Dell is happy. You see that? However, that started a non-stopping trend. Because for sure, the year after, Dell is going to call him again, 10%. This time, he doesn't even have to think. He will say, yes, sir. He will just do it. Why? Because he will then go through that cycle again. He will go through the bank, get the money, make a bigger factory. Everybody is happy. So as a result of that, you know what happened? The factory gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Although the unit production being cheaper, the factory gets bigger and bigger. That's why you see most of these OEM factory are huge factory. You cannot imagine the size. It's just big, big, big. Because the way this whole thing works, okay? And that's also why when the OEM trends start to reverse, it creates a lot of problems, a lot of social problem, economic, because bank will have no way to get money back, right? In a good time, bank is very comfortable lending the money. And so there's a lot of problems. So it's not a simple just business agreement. There's a lot of financial things involved there. So it's not easy to reverse. So this, I just want to let you know, this is how the alliance works, okay? Okay, so let's look at a positive consequence. From the brand company point of view, the obvious reason is now you can sort of, in conceptual, you can delay the segment zero. In a way, you don't have to reverse your strategy too quickly. You can simply just have your little brother to do it, okay? Second one is, you can remain very active even in a commodity market, which normally by yourself, you are not cost competitive, but now you can do that. okay? And you can, this is an interesting thing. You can now have the local population enjoy much cheaper product than it would be otherwise. Because, you know, in the local economy, if everything is made here and bought here and used here, there is a linkage between wage and price, right? If everything is local. In other words, if the price is high, wage has to be high, right? And if the wage is high, the price will go high, right? That's the local economy. But right now, what happened is you subcontract this activity to another economy. So the wage and price start to decouple. In other words, people with low wage in locally, they can still buy very good product. Imported, that's the only difference. You understand the point? So this actually created a major problem for the brand company. Because in the human nature, you end up with a lot of people who enjoy just living good life with with good product. They don't want to go to work. In the real healthy economy, people, the wage and the price are linked together. Therefore, you want to have a good life. You have to work hard, and you work hard, you have more wage. So this is how economy develops, right? But now you don't have to work hard. You can still go, as I said, you see a lot of people in early days, they get government check, they don't have to work, and they can still push the big shopping cart to Walmart to buy all this stuff they want. Why? Because those things are all made in China. It's not made in local. So you will see the detach of the wage and price. And that will incentivize people not even work. You understand how these things work? So this is really a unanticipated consequence people didn't think about before. Okay, and once you have this wage and the price detached, and you have problem. Because then the incentive for economic development is gone. And then you have a problem with that. And so that's why most of these brand company region become something we call over-consuming society. They just keep spending money, keep buying the cheap product. If the product is broken, they don't even repair, they buy another one because it's cheap. Why do I repair that? And this all leading to this huge waste that we will talk about later on. Okay, so this is one of the major problem that even though you enjoy cheap product beyond local wage standard, in the long term, this create a huge economic problems. It allowed you to circumvent the local environmental and labor problem, right? We said if the union is too strong, you just don't deal with them, you go out, right? So this was good. But then, as I already said, you create another problem in the long term. Because then your workforce become completely idle, not improving. Therefore, even later on, they cannot return to the job market, okay? So this is all the good side of the globalization. So for example, if you look at all the movement before 2000, everybody think globalization is the future, right? You have a big conferences every year talk about globalization. Every country report a good number about globalization. Everyone seems to be happy, okay? But then the more we do that, the more starting from after 2008, people start to realize, hey, wait a minute, there's a lot of problem underneath this, okay? Then, unfortunately, before we start to really fix this problem, the problem become political. That's why we are here today, okay? So now if you look at OEM problem, the OEM side, okay, this is still positive. Number one is they can participate industrial very quickly. So to change from agricultural economy to industrial economy very quickly, they have more employment opportunity, help economic growth, and they have quick access technology know-how, and they speed up globalization. So these are good things. Okay, now let's look at a bad thing, okay? From the brand company, there are also bad consequences. Number one is they do not know how to do production. The factory moves out, and production has a lot of know-how which are not written on the book. It's really a knowledge you have to gain from experience, right? So if you don't do it, this is not like Newton's law. You can still study from the book, right? If you don't do it, you just don't know how to do it. So they start to really lose, particularly the scaling of know-how. This is a very important in industrial age. Not only you need to make things, you know how to make things, you need to make the things a lot of them. That's important, right? Remember, we talk about that Tesla was good in making Model S, Model X, but then they hit a wall in Model 3 because Model 3 is a mass production. It's a very, very different thing, okay? So this is the problem, that you start to outsource, people start taking the easy solution, more and more you lose manufacturing. Everybody say we're doing service. We're a service industry. Remember, for a while, country are very proud of the fact that now we have transitioned from manufacturing industry to service industry. Everybody said that now regret. The reason is you cannot really transfer to service industry without manufacturing base. Okay, because unless the whole world is one economic region, unless we're all happy forever. But when you have all the region, political division there, such kind of transformation from manufacturing to service industry, only service industry, is very, very risky. It's very risky, okay? So you can see many developing countries are suffering from this, okay? Over-consuming population, we talk about it, because people don't have to work hard. They can still enjoy a pretty good life, okay? The lost employment job, okay? So the cycle. And this lost employment job is not only lost the headcount, the workforce start to lose the ability to improve their scale. That's the problem. So in the long term, you really have a population which have no updated scale and they have no job. So even now you bring the job back, they cannot do it. That's really the problem. And okay, so negative side. Okay, from the OEM point of view, becoming overproducing economy. Okay, now the economic development is very interesting. A real healthy economic development, you have to produce and you have to consume. This cycle has to go on. If you only consume, you don't produce, you will not have a healthy development. In the same way, if you only produce and you don't consume, the economy will not improve, right? So the consumption and production has to really happen in the cycle. Now, what happened in the OEM region is, particularly if you look at early stage in China, and you go to the coastal area like Shenzhen, you will see all these young people coming from countryside, right? So they work in the factory, they earn salary, they live in a very crowded space there. You know what? At the end of the year, they bring all the salary back home in the countryside. They don't spend this money in the local city in the early days, right? So as a result, you don't have really a healthy economic development. So people just keep producing things without spending the money. That's not a good thing. And this is another thing, because if you keep pushing down the cost, something has to give away. Something have to give away. Often the give away is the product safety, worker safety, right? And environmental concern. So you'll see the factory become very polluted, right? The air become very bad. So those are very serious problem. And this problem only, people only start to realize this problem when it already occurred. So a lot of time, so that's why governments start to take back all the incentive. They don't think this kind of quick economic development is actually good. So they start to withdraw the incentive. So this really start to create the reversal trend. And the next one is the resource, okay? Because all these production require a lot of resources, like energy resources. Water is, for example, water, right? So those resources get exhausted very, very quickly. So as a result, you see many OEM regions now become, the economic development are not very even. And there are a lot of safety problems, a lot of environmental concern, and they are very much in trouble in terms of natural resource. So this is really the negative part, okay? This is the major one. We can talk about that later when we talk about the reversal of the current trend. That is, the economic benefit are not distributed adequately. there's a lot of people actually become very rich in this. And there's also a lot of people really suffer, become worse. As a matter of fact, this uneven distribution happens not only in each country, but also among countries. If you look at United Nations number, you will find out the developing country actually benefit much, much more in outsourcing than the underdeveloped country. Okay, and that certainly is true inside each economy, each nation. So each nation, you'll find out well-off people become much better because of global outsourcing, and people at the lower segment become worse. Now, when we talk about the current reversal trend, there's one major crisis that is the hollow out of the middle class. Okay, and this is particularly true after the economic crisis and COVID. So now the middle class become very small, right? And one of the reasons is because this uneven distribution of global outsourcing, it basically pull this middle class, pull apart this middle class. So you have a lot of rich people and a lot of poor people, because this distribution of the benefit is not very even. Okay, so this is really a problem. I think if we're going to rediscover the global outsourcing, we have to really learn this. That is, how do we use the money we're going to save, the benefit we're going to save, to invest on these people who are being impacted on that, so that they can still keep growing with the economy. Otherwise, you just push them out back home, they stay there, eventually they become totally useless, okay? So this is really a major lesson we learn. Okay, so so this is really leading into the next discussion about reversal trend. So there are several reasons that the global outsourcing started to reverse. I think global outsourcing reached a peak about 2010. Okay, it started about late 80, 90. So you have a 3 decade or 4 decades of good time. That's everything developed, and you have a huge economic growth overall. Even though if you look at details, not even, but it's good development. But then something happened. Okay, first is technology and product factor. So you have a lot of new technology happen, and the second one is infrastructure factor. Okay, for example, infrastructure. Today, the internet really allowed you to do a lot of control, even remotely from different country to do production, right? So you don't need the old traditional outsourcing model. Labor become a different issue, right? So infrastructure, the transportation, the communication infrastructure is a problem. Social factor, everyone want to have a good job, everyone want to have a good living. Economic factor, okay, and then the geopolitical factor. That's really what's happened. Well, the geopolitical factor basically is the combination of all the above. Okay, so politicians will just pick up all these things and try to make it in a political argument, then it become a political issue. Okay, what you need to know is actually understand the underlying problems rather than look at this. Okay, then you will see what went wrong, how do you fix that, okay? Okay, now today we end here. Let me just tell you, this is the module 7 cohort discussion. I want to discuss 4 topics. Basically, these are the opportunity for you to share with your cohort member about your own experience, okay? Particularly, finally, what's the general sentiment, okay? A lot of people still think global outsourcing are the good thing to do, okay? A lot of people still have a question on that, okay? So I don't want you to report on the detail. I do want you to So I do want you to just tell me which one you agree the most, which one you disagree, and the new surprising point. Got it? Okay? Okay, we finished the first part. Now the second part today, remember I told you I want to open the 1 hour open question answer. Any question you have regarding what we have learned, all the way from beginning, any example you want me to discuss more, any cases that you find out from your own life, I want you to raise those things, then we can have a discussion. So I want to, since this is almost the middle point, I want to have 1 hour open QA. Okay? So we'll come back in 7:15. Come back 7:15. Okay?
Do you guys have any question to ask, like Professor Liu? Because in that case, we can like for this week we can pause the discussion so that since he said he opened like for an hour, for you guys to ask any questions. Oh, not this.
Send me an email.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the question?
It's actually saying like, oh, there's gonna be.
What's that?
And you talk about starting a regular.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions, like, in case? If yes, then we'll let you guys ask him, like, any question you like to ask in terms of, like, team project, or I guess what he was saying is you can ask anything. Yeah? Yeah? No one have.
So I can do it, but it's
Yeah.
Either.
That's okay.
Okay, I'm going to use like the raise your hand. If you guys like to ask him question, please raise your hand. No one raised their hand. Okay. If you want to do what we usually do, like the after class discussion, please raise your hand.
It was floating.
Okay. Okay. I guess that's it. Okay. So we'll do our regular after class discussion then.
Are you done?
No, I
You may like ask him question afterwards after we finish our after class discussion. So we'll continue. All right, so we'll continue our discussion last week. So last week we So first things, please join the after class discussion, like the meeting. So later on we can like separate you guys into two groups. Okay, I like how you interact. All right, so also check the note. I have put something related to the head-mounted device. We'll continue the discussion that we haven't finished last week. So we're talking about the Google Glass and the Meta Smart Glasses. Check the note. Oh, yeah. Okay, so last week we talked about the last two questions, but this week we'll focus on the first three questions. So this is related to the material that Professor Liu talked about last week. Basically, we want to talk about what's the Google Glass in the early market and why they failed, and how about the Ray-Ban, like the Meta Google Glass. And also, since last week, I noticed that all of you have say so many performance to do, but also in the class, Professor Liu also did mention that it is not always a good idea to have so many function at the same times. Sometimes it's better to have a couple function and focus more on it. So you can think what about the Ray-Ban, the smart glass now? Is it the dominant design and why? And think about the similar product. And so, all right, so we'll continue our discussion last week. So last week we talked about the last two questions. Basically, we want to talk about what's the Google Glass in the early market and why they failed, and how about the Ray-Ban, like the Meta Google Glass. And also, since last week, I noticed that all of you have so many performance to do, but also in the class, Professor Liu also did mention that Right. We'll have group A and group B, and these are the 3 questions we'll talk about today. And I also provide some information about like what's the advantage of the head-mounted device, why this start to be like popular now. Okay, and let's separate you guys into 2 groups. Oh, there. So we'll finish the discussion at 10:30, and you guys will present it afterwards. Okay, you should be able to join the breakout room. You may start the discussion. Soon Ping? Oh. Soon Ping, we'll add you to one of the group. Okay. Oh. 我看一下，他是不是 Christopher？You're able to join.
But I still can use the notebook.
I guess notebook is the same issue. So she has the same issue. When you're using pad, you won't be able to
Okay.
join. Yeah, but you should be able to join the meeting network.
真的吗？其实我在看，觉得没有，因为大部分是，你看，这个应该是阿富汗的学生。应该是他们的开的海景。八个，因为只有 iPhone 不算嘛。Oh, someone's speakers or microphone.
If your microphone's on, don't put the two laptops too close to each other, otherwise it'll have that beep noise.
Google Classes is in the early market. Okay, and how about the Red Hat? The Red Hat
我会直接消失，因为我在课上面就是。
still in the early market, and another design will appear after the patent. It's still like early market, but it's big very open. So it's definitely not the dominant design is that the product and the function you must have this kind of product and is convenient enough. How come there's enough products? Yeah. How come like properties what customer wants on these kinds of products? And these
we're not talking about Ray-Ban as a company, but the Ray-Ban glasses.
Right, produce. So it's not Ray-Ban.
Like the smart glasses.
就是我要寄信给他，只是他以前有。
Weren't here last week. Oh yeah, so since you touched upon, we had like a face analysis or something was it to Ray-Ban smart glasses. You can find it in a PDF. Should be shared.
他是有在做事情的，就是第一周、第二周那时候好像热心的时候就是有寄一封，就是谁没做什么事情要提醒，然后他那时候没有做，所以我那时候写信给他，然后我真是要写说提醒他上课的时候他就没有在课里面，但是他还有在 Microsoft。
对，可是那个就是他没有任何一个给他填。
对。
所以我不太确定。可是课表确认的时候，他是有在里面，所以我就没有移走他。
可是他也有申请领到的。
真的消失了。
But Google shut down this program maybe maybe just 1 month ago. So they stopped it.
停休理论上我应该要签到你。
对。会不会是那个徐老师的签名？应该有。
因为我应该不会，他如果有的时候他会通知我。他这不在里面
可是他休学，就是对休学。
They now stop.
有人要弄走12个学生，
还是因为他是师大系，只是因为师大系
没有，我之前有弄有，对啊，
之前是有他的信，因为我写过信给他，然后他也有回复。
有吗？
有。
因为第3周是人工加签到停休什么，那个就是一定要经过我啊。
对。
对。然后他是算新师哦。 因为这个是要我确定这个是要经过我才能。
I mean, I know some people who use smart glasses, but it is not from like
Line，
you
它
couldn't
之
buy
前有
it
加
in
到
the
全
store. It's like the company created their own glasses for the one I'm thinking of is from Siemens in a manufacturing hall. They have like not QR codes, but little
裙子里面还
symbols. So
曾经
if
穿了
you
一个
walk
哭
down
的
the
贴
corridor
场。
with the smart glasses on, smart glasses register you as being there because it registers, oh, there's a, I don't know, something, a rectangle or something, I don't know. Yeah, it's like, oh, you're here right now, and it can send you updates on your tablets. Yeah, it is, but there's no much use outside of the manufacturing hall because it wouldn't work.
可以麻烦你帮我试试问一下吗？
哎，那我这样是写信到教务处的。
就
这个学生一开始有在我们班上，后来发现后来有好几次他没有出席，然后在课上面发现也从学生名单消失。那请问可以稍微了解一下他是有什么状况，还是说是软体？
Also, it's not related to the camera. You mean camera, not what you see. I mean, maybe Ray-Ban can have the picture what you see, but well, that maybe can't. Really? Maybe. If they don't have this feedback, how do Ray-Ban
我这个 final student 是在之后的事这个是已经不能加退选了，就除非你人工就是来处理。
停休。
对啊。为什么可以这样？
还是他休学？
我不知道那个这种，他不是交换生吗？交换生可以休学。
对哈，对，他是交换生，还是他回补？没关系，我去问一下教务处，然后看教务处。
上次出现是什么意思？
他出现过一次，就是他加入他的时候，927。
那他后来都没有再回你是吗？
信吗？
信或是
信是因为我没办法发给他，我还没用 Line， 还是我就用 Line 写给他。
问他一下。
好。就。
然后那3个 group 都只有一个 group 就是比较 active， 其他就是一个不知道在干什么，已经死去的一个 group， 就是都还要我催说，你们应该要找就是你们的组长啊，你们应该要就自我介绍，全部都是被动到一个不行。我都不知道是怎么回事啊！你们去年有这样吗？
我觉得我们去年就是人数少，所以他后来有做一个调查表，就是如果你的组里面大概有2个以上都没有在 participate 的话，他就会并组，就会重新拆组再并组。但是刚好我那组算是比较 active，所以我们那时候没有遇到这个问题。但是我另外一个同学，他就是他们的组好像有3个人都不出声，所以后来教授就把他们2个抓起来，跟其他组有出声的把他们并组。
帮我确认一下好，确认好之后，我再跟那个南加大那边回说，就是把它移除。
好，我现在已经把 Line 给对方了。
好。
Hope your discussion is doing well. We're at the end of the Do you need one more minute to type down? Yeah, okay, just one more minute and we'll start the sharing your answers. Remember to put down your name. End of the discussion.
Function.
Yeah. Cool. We see Frederick. Oh. Will that group A to share their discussion first? Who's group A anyway? Oh, you guys write down group 1, right? So we'll start from group 1. You guys are the first one, right? So you can.
No, because we did a whiteboard thing in our breakout room.
Ah.
Information, now it's gone, I think.
Oh no! Hold on. Let's check. Hold on. Let's see if your discussion is still inside. Is it still in there? Okay, then we let group 2. That's that group 2 to present to share it first. It's alright. Oh, okay. Oh, we're so sorry. What?
Or maybe next time you can try just typing on the note, like that way they could also see.
Yeah. All right. So do you guys need one? Okay. Then yeah. Okay. Then we'll start from. Yeah. Yeah. Of course. So we'll enlarge. 没关系，这样很好。Okay. You may start. Yeah, please. And put the microphone.
Okay. So maybe I can do the first question.
Hi. Okay. So we are Group A, and for the first question, like like kind of all agree that Google Glass is still in the early market, since like the usage is still like quite limited to like a certain group of people. Like it's still not like really available or like really like common for the general public, and there's still not really a dominant design, and like the customers who use the Google Glass like mainly are still like performance driven, not like maybe smart glasses in general, but like they are like performance driven, like rather than like other factors. And like our examples, like thanks to Florian, yeah. So it's like Siemens, and like you can use the smart glasses, and it will kind of detect you, like in the certain like places in the manufacturing like factory or like their buildings. So like they can detect you and kind of give you some updates about maybe their products or other things. Yeah.
Okay, and for the second question, we also think that Ray-Ban isn't a dominant design because there isn't a like standard functions or performance to enter a mainstream market. And Ray-Ban, I think it's produced by Meta.
Yeah.
And it's more demand and function oriented stage instead of performance enter in a mainstream market like a performance and price ratio. So we don't think Ray-Ban is a dominant design.
Do we still have? Oh. What is it? Sorry. Oh, like the similar products, or?
We just didn't write it down. We talked about it.
Oh yeah. So like we're just in the discussion. So like we kind of like a bit, okay, maybe just me, a bit confusing, like what really like smart glasses is. And like we think right now there's still like what's smart glasses are, like still like no really definite like definition. And also like we think of some kind of like similar products like based on the function that currently like Google Glasses or like Ray-Ban offer. Oh, this are notes. Sorry. Just nearly like taking advantage of. Yeah, but like so Ray-Ban has like the built-in AI assistant function, so we kind of like connected to the smart speaker like produced by Amazon or like Apple. So it's kind of, and what do we talk about?
Well, is it on? It is on. Well, we thought about the VR, AR have like a way bigger market share because they have, I don't know if they're mainstream, but they're commoditized. So there are many different products because of VR goggles, of course, the Oculus, I think it's called. And another big company. Quest. Oh, sorry, Quest. Yeah. So with the AR goggles, they do have applications like we talked about. Siemens has one in their manufacturing halls with the glasses. So I wouldn't say they're 100% AR goggles or 100% smart goggles. It's just a fusion of both, but it's not. It's just for internal systems. You couldn't use it outside. It's just for digital twins. So the difference is, I'd say you couldn't really use it outside. The VR as well, you have to have an enclosed system. So I think that's why smart glasses are struggling that much, because their usage would be outside with not controlled visuals. With the example of Siemens, they have some markers in their halls, and if the camera detects the marker, it knows what to do. But smart glasses used in the real world wouldn't have those markers, so they would have to process way more. So I think that's like the difference why the market share is so, yeah.
Yes. so I think that's all for like our group. Thank you.
So for the first question, oh, we're group 2, group B. And for the first question, we believe that Google Glasses are in the early market because the concept is not well accepted or even well known among general population. So it cannot be in the mainstream market by now. And Ray-Ban smart glasses is also in the early market due to the same reasons we provided for the Google Glasses. Yeah. And do we think that Ray-Ban is the dominant design? No, we don't believe that it is the dominant design because the functions are still altering between in their own companies, and customers are still thinking or seeking better functions that they want on the design. So. And they are still in the early market, and there's no dominant designs appearing in the early market. So yeah, Ray-Ban and Google Glasses are not a dominant design. So yeah, that's the same. And are there similar? Are there similar products in the market? Well, the difference between Ray-Ban and Google Glasses are the target audiences are different. Google Glasses are more likely to target people with like work requirements, like doctors or engineers. When they are working, they can use Google Glasses to provide support for their work. And Ray-Bans, on the other hand, are more like for people that want to connect with others, because it built in some social media apps like Instagram or Facebook in it. Oh, Google Glasses, there is social media in Google Glasses, but Google Hangouts. But who's using that? So yeah, not very useful. And Ray-Ban is also much more cheaper than Google Glasses. It's 5 times more cheaper. So the target audience is significantly more large or more toward general populations than Google Glasses. Yeah, and that's about our answer. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much for today's sharing. So there are actually more glasses, just like now they have captured like eye tracking system so that you may use it outdoor in the nearly future because you may connect it to the mobile phone. But yeah, that we'll see if it will happen in the next 5 years. All right, thank you so much for today. And we'll open the meeting so that you can talk to Professor Liu if you need it. And that's the end of today's class. Thank you so much.
Change our politics, change our career, change a lot of things there. Okay. Another thing, middle class is very important. Is middle class means that if you do A, you will become better. Like you do better. So middle class almost have a ladder for you to follow. So that's why as long as you do well in the school, you get a good job, you have a starting job, then you do promotion, go continue. That used to be the middle class. That's my age, for example, in 80s, 90s, like that. So that's why people are very clear on the goal. Okay, I want to do this. Once I get in the ladder, I can go up and up. I can become better. I don't think that ladder exists here today for young people. I don't know whether you understand what I'm saying. I'm not trying to discourage you, okay? But really, to me, I think that ladder is not very clear today. It's not very clear, okay? That, I think, is a very depressive thing because like, young people doesn't know where to work hard. really in my age there, at school, everybody study hard because they know they're going to get result when they study hard. Here, today, if you study hard, you may not get a job. Or maybe you will, but I don't know. Okay, but I think, come back to the overall question, I think you need to now start to give yourself more contingency plan. Okay, the early model that I have a goal, I work hard, I'll get a goal, you have to somehow loosen that a little bit. Okay, because there's so many uncontrollable variables, so many of them. I mean, you just look at the world, I mean, a week ago and today is so different. Now everybody's putting their eyes on the Mid East, okay? Nobody cares what happened in Ukraine now. Nobody cares what happened in Afghanistan. This is really very sad if you think about it, right? Every time we turn on the news, we watch the news and the people are shooting the rocket, all these things, as if this is a video game. No, people are dying, but we lose the feeling of that, right? I remember the first time that the war can be televised on TV was, I think, during the first Mid-East war, right? So you see the bomb, all this, and come there, and people at the very beginning was very shocked because that's the first time. Like, for example, World War II is very cool, but people don't see it. At least they don't see it right here. Vietnam War is very cool, but people don't see it, right? But then, in the recent years, people see the war just like every night you turn TV, you see the war, and then you lose feeling. This is really very sad. I think people start to lose the feelings in reality. And, well, you are still, the good thing is you are still young. So you can afford to make mistake earlier. I'm serious. Yeah, because other than that, I don't have any other suggestion because the letter become very vague, not clear. Yes. Gabriel, you have a question? Yes.
Yes, sorry. I just have one more question that follows on what you were talking about the current situation. I mean, just to share a bit of context, I work on a company that is a global company that has different stages of market in each of the countries it works. So in Brazil, for instance, we're more in the late market, but in the whole Europe, we're more like in the mainstream market. And now we're facing this crisis as well. I mean, what you said that we were a startup and then getting money and re-spending it on marketing and advertisement was the main thing to do. But now EBITDA is more like concern, so we started to have like a safety measures to hold money. The thing is, once you are in this kind of situation, you don't get many opportunities to innovate because there is no. I mean, it seems that there is an intangible value at doing new blue ocean markets in that situation. Do you think this will be a new default for the other companies as well? They will stop the how can they say that, the discovery process within the companies for a bit because there's no money to risk. As you were talking before?
Well, I don't know the specific context of your company, therefore I cannot answer specifically. But in general, I always think that actually indicate a good opportunity to innovate. I always believe that in the next couple of decades, I think the real good innovation opportunity are in the bottom of the pyramids, not in the top of pyramids, because I think that's already done. You understand my point of top pyramids, okay? Because in the top of pyramids, you see all these successful high-tech companies. But you see, the things they make actually are only affordable for very few people in the world. If you think about it, there's a lot of people down in the bottom of the pyramids that still have a real needs, okay? And that's why I always think you need to really broaden your horizon, broaden your contact to different part of the world. Something which may be very normal in Brazil, once you learn, that may be a great opportunity for you as well. So try to be global, a little bit global, rather than look at the local, because the local specific ladder, as I say, is not there. but try to look at global. I always believe that if you look at overall in the world, there are a lot of things still need to be done. Okay, it just, if you come from the traditional model, traditional mentality, you will not see this opportunity. You will not see this opportunity. Okay. For example, the other day I watched a story that the largest company in India, Tata, right? They are making a electrical EV car, which is about $2,000 US. It's amazing. Okay. I think that kind of thing is really, you try to use your technology know-how to serve the many. I think that will probably be a very interesting market. But again, you have to completely rethink your value proposition. Okay, that the kind of thing that pushing very hard to earn a high profit margin in short period of time, it's gone. I think that is very hard. It's very hard to have next Zuckerberg. Just impossible. Very hard. Okay. But there's still opportunity there. There's still opportunity there. I also think when you study this whole area, you need to really ask yourself, what is the right thing to do? I mean, the more you look at, for example, what happened to FTX, the company, FTX? Anybody know it? Okay, what happened?
By a guy who's a massive fraud.
Yeah.
Basically, they use their customers' money, which they were meant to use according to like a contract that they held with all customers. And suddenly they went like a bank run happened. All customers heard about it. They tried to get their money on, but because they didn't have the money in hand that they were meant to have, they just like.
Yeah. Well, it's currently it's on trial, so you have a lot of news there. I think you should look at those things there. That you should remind yourself, if you know technology, actually you can do evil things very easily. Seriously, okay? And with the current environment, you have to really hold the temptation of doing those evil things. Because doing evil things very easily. You look at a small group of young kids from MIT. Just a couple of them get together and make hundreds of billions of dollars. It's just incredible. And then the whole thing collapsed. It turns out those people are really trying to gain the system. Okay. Early example about that Theranos, the blood test. What is it? What is that?
It was their whole marketing shtick was that they.
只要填 form 嘛，那也是我所理解的。那真的没有问到太长，因为我去年也是只有跟课，这种就是你们办中间做的活动，我全部都没办法。